One time I watched a fly fall and learned no one's perfect after all. Gabbie Hanna. So this video is on Gabbie Hanna's series, Chapter 1, Revisiting the Ricegum Drama. There's a lot to unpack here that isn't just about the Ricegum situation. Actually, the Ricegum situation only happens a very small part of her video. I'm going to start from the beginning and go through it. She starts off with something I find extremely confusing to the timeline. Honestly, Gabbie, release the timeline because you're confusing the living hell out of me. So she says she's always known she had ADHD. But that's weird to me because earlier I could have sworn she claimed that she sucked out a diagnosis for BPD or bipolar, but was just diagnosed with ADHD. Like, what was it? Then she went to an ADHD specializing psychologist, and now I'm more confused. Like, okay, what is this timeline? And why did she go to a specialist in ADHD if she wanted to seek a diagnosis of BPD or bipolar? Like, did she self-diagnose? This is also confusing and wishy-washy. Self-diagnosis can be valid, but it always takes others to actually diagnose. And when we go straight to a specialist after self-diagnosis, we can skew the real diagnosis. Even at that, Gabbie acts like having ADHD excludes you from having other mental disorders. It does not. I have ADHD and a form of manic depressive disorder, and a lot of other things. My manic depression is caused by my thyroid issue, which is part of my chronic illness. So I'm okay now that I'm on the right meds, but you can fully have both or any other mental illness. One does not exclude you from another. Plus, what really worries me is prior, when she talks about seeking diagnoses, she said, no, they just said it was ADHD. But here's the thing. Like I said, one doesn't exclude you from another, but beyond that, in therapy, we can mask. Women tend to mask mental illness better than men. And on top of that, Gabbie's a psych major. So her ability to pass is probably better than most. I have someone in my life who masked, even though they went on and off to therapy since they were a teen. It was only after they had a psychotic break, when they were close to 40, did we realize they had schizophrenia bipolar. The therapist called everyone they knew and asked about any weird things, and the picture that was painted through individual stories and interactions made it clear to the therapist that they always had that mental illness. They just coped really well. And one of the reasons the therapist thought so was because this person had taken a lot of psych classes. The thing is, even if you don't mask, the road to proper diagnosis can be hard and paved with many misdiagnoses. There are a lot of overlap in mental illness, and then it's also down to the individual's explanation of things as well. Sometimes we skew the results, and sometimes it takes multiple evaluations, sometimes multiple therapists to get a proper diagnosis. I worry that the reason Gabbie acts the way she does about mental illness is more because she's worried she will be less of an artist if she was properly diagnosed, in my opinion. I think she's dodging diagnoses. Of course, I can't diagnose her with anything. I'm not a doctor. But the way she acts and handles things is concerning. I want to discuss that a little bit more. As somebody who has had a lot of mental health problems and who has gone through that tortured artist phase, art is what we make of it, right? The thing is just because your art might change because you're happier now or you're doing better does not mean your art's any less valid or good. It just means you're getting help. She also does something I find extremely troublesome. She simulates ADHD by speeding up audio and layering audio. Simulations of mental illness can be harmful and make it hard to seek diagnosis because people will be like, this is not what I feel like. My ADHD, and this is my personal experience with ADHD, isn't like Gabbie Hannas. My brain will just jump to the end of things, or there will be a constant song in my head. Right now, it's a little voice by Hilary Duff. Don't ask me how that got into my head.
I might have just watched Lizzie McGuire and then went down a rabbit hole.
But it did, and it won't stop. But that's the thing. That's my symptoms. It might not be someone else's symptoms. Simulations without disclaimers are harmful. I actually have been harmed by this in my auditory processing disorder. My auditory processing disorders, I have auditory dyslexia. Even though I have other dyslexias, I don't have the dyslexia form that makes it hard to read. Like, my letters don't bunch and move. But when I went to school, a lot of the teachers had basic knowledge of dyslexia because they had went to a seminar where they simulated dyslexia. And the simulation that they saw was the letter bunching, the moving around, of the letters. I don't have that. So no matter how many times my special ed teacher would try to explain to them I could read perfectly fine, they would not listen to her. She actually tried to tell them, oh no, she actually needs all written instructions because it'll help her dyslexia, because she could process writing better than she could process hearing. And they would not listen to her. They would also not allow me into the reading portion, like the English portion of class, even though my special ed teacher said I should be in that portion of class. So I missed out on reading a lot of like mandatory books. But that's okay, because I ended up reading a lot of interesting books that I just liked to read and writing reports on it because my special ed teacher didn't care. Because she was teaching a class of kids who had reading dyslexia. So she didn't want to teach me with that group because it would stunt me. So she would just let me choose the book, and then she would read the book, and then I would write a report on it, and then she would just sign off on it. But their lack of trying to understand my auditory dyslexia because of a simulation of dyslexia, it affected my learning because I should have had written instructions. And once I actually started getting them, I had a huge bump in my grades.
I just can't listen. It's always been my problem.
That's why simulations should always have a disclaimer at the beginning. Like, this might not be your symptoms. This might not be the way you see it and the way it processes with you. After this, she brings up Khloe Kardashian and how Khloe's face is trending because she had plastic surgery. And I do agree with Gabbie that she should be able to have surgery if she wanted to. And it is disgusting that people call her the ugly sister. But in my opinion, Gabbie is bringing all this up, things that literally don't have anything to do with her, to align herself with these people. Like, yeah, we get it, Gabbie, you're criticized unfairly for your looks, but that doesn't make all the criticism against you unfair. Like, a criticism I agree with about the Kardashians is when they lie about getting work done, it makes beauty standards that are unachievable. And I would rather they be more open with the work they have gotten done, because at least then people know. And that's fair criticism of the Kardashians, but Gabbie lumps all criticism together when she says the same people who bullied Khloe over their looks are the people who are now bullying her for getting surgery. I don't agree. I mean, I'm sure there's overlap, but I think the vast majority of people who are commenting on her surgery were people on the other side, or in the middle, like me. Plastic surgery's fine, just own it. But Gabbie sees the world in black and white, and oftentimes chooses the darkness over the light, instead of seeing the world in many shades and hues of color. She also relates Britney Spears to Khloe, and I don't think this is fair, because in some sense, it makes Britney's plight seem lesser than. Britney just didn't get told she was ugly. We have to realize Britney was treated like trash since childhood. We followed her around as a child, when in reality we shouldn't paparazzi children or write articles criticizing them over stupid things, but we did that to Britney, and that meant going into adulthood, she didn't have the best mental health. When she did get into adulthood, she found she was surrounded with people who are willing to lie about her.
I'm looking at you, Timberlake.
People just lied about her. Tabloids told lies about her. And she also for sure had mental health issues. Her parents were more than willing to try to tap into her money again, now that they didn't have control over her. So no, Britney isn't like Khloe. And that's just an oversimplification. She also talks about Megan Fox, and I think this is a better comparison to Britney. We treated Megan Fox like a bombshell when she was a child. That was gross. But what I'm saying is, their stories don't line up with Gabbie's. Gabbie became famous when she was an adult. You can see how that's different. She had more of a choice. She could realize what would happen. Megan Fox and Britney couldn't have known even if they wanted to do it, because they were children. Issues in the entertainment industry probably seemed like it would never happen to them, because they are children. So I don't like when Gabbie brings this up, because it's not the same. It's just not. She talks about her nose again. Like, I get it. People make fun of her nose, but my real question is, what nose do people want her to have? Like, legit. What nose do people want her to have? I don't think a different nose would look right on her face, but maybe I'm weird. I also think, like most people who are actually her fans, don't care. So why care about the trolls online who don't even watch you? Actually, if they do, go and leave comments. Just reply with like,
"Dude, thank you for hating me so much. You're giving me money. Love that for you."
Then Gabbie goes off on a rant about how white men can be forgiven for anything and can come back online like nothing happened. I do kind of agree in some sense that women are held more accountable in a lot of things that their male counterparts would not have been. But also, Gabbie still has fans even after all her cancellations. Maybe the real difference in this case is they just didn't care and kept making videos. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's more about how she handled it. Like, look at Rachel Oates with this. Gabbie sent tons of hate her way, but Rachel kept going and posting. No, Rachel was never canceled, but she handled the hate of Gabbie's fan base with grace and realized her fan base would be there for her. But Gabbie doesn't think like that, and I feel she chooses not to. Gabbie Hanna then talks about Meghan Markle and Piers Morgan, and like her criticism was ill-informed. Piers Morgan is a garbage human being, and he always has been, but Gabbie making fun of him for not being able to take criticism is, well, the pot calling the kettle black. And she also says that Piers spearheaded the campaign against Meghan. But I feel like that's an oversimplification. It's like, no, people even inside the royal family were being racist to Meghan. People were racist to Meghan. Some really problematic people were just not ready for someone of color to be part of the royal family and put her under a microscope because of it. It's really sick, the world we live in. So Gabbie trying to relate any of her issues to that comes off as really messed up to me. And then Gabbie goes on to talk about how someone shaded her on Vine. The person she later finds out is from her hometown and was asked to make the Vine from a guy who liked her and wanted him to make the Vine as a revenge thing, like knocking Gabbie down a peg or something. And she tried to make a video with this guy trying to expose the guy who liked her. Like, why? The guy's a private citizen. What would that really do, Gabbie? Gabbie's only okay with drama when it favors her. But when it does not, oh no, drama. Then she goes on to talk about how she never goes to the internet to publicly confront people. And well, see example above, but also, then why did she do that to Rachel? She's done it so many times. She's written songs about people, told stories about people. Like, look at that drama with Dominic DeAngelis. All he did was pass her and smash her pass and say,
"She's not my type."
But then Gabbie had to confront him at a party because, and then also on the internet because. It's troublesome. It's not normal. She blows things so up and then says she doesn't start drama. Now we finally get to the Ricegum situation. I love the narrative Gabbie built because this just shows how she sees everything so negatively. She says no one was on her side when she got assaulted. Like, what? I was on the internet during that time. So many people were saying
What Gabbie did to start things was wrong. But Ricegum became the worst when he escalated it, and nothing Gabbie did warranted that response.
And that was what I heard a lot of at the time. Hell, there was a whole content cop on it in a diss track that had PewDiePie and Ethan from H3 featured in it. I do think saying Gabbie started it is kind of victim blamey, and I don't like it, but I also see where people are coming from with it. Gabbie just chose to only see the negative, like literally, has Ricegum been relevant since? No, he has not. I mean, does he still have a platform? Yes. But look at James, even if you do unforgivable things, you can still be on this platform and have an audience. You know, maybe Gabbie should learn from that and not care about what other people think so much. She also mentions an instance of Ricegum fans who were children following her around the mall. Again, children. They were children. The thing she fails to realize is they were children. Like, we as adults have a responsibility to handle children like adults. Something Gabbie time after time fails to do. One time, I was at Trader Joe's wearing pink boots, a pink dress, a pink batwing scarf, and a beret with little devil horns, and a black jumper. And a bunch of teens followed me around the store making fun of me. And after I checked out, I turned around and said to them,
I'm sorry that you feel you can't express yourself through fashion, so you feel the need to make fun of people who can.
And I walked off because they were children. Gabbie also says no one's ever experienced what she's gone through with the internet hating them because of being assaulted. Wait? What? No. Many have. I can think of one off the top of my head. Jessie. Yet Gabbie still continues to harass her. So maybe Gabbie should look in on herself as to why people on the internet could take the perp's side and victim blame, because she still actively does it. Gabbie also says it's not drama what happened to her, and I agree, yet Gabbie calls Jessie's incident drama. It's so hypocritical. She then talks about how people made up rumors she died. And yeah, I feel for that one. It hurts. But it's been talked about a lot. It's not just happened to Gabbie. It's a problem, but as of late, it's part of being a public figure, and that's extremely messed up. But the vast majority of people aren't those kind of people. Gabbie also says it was a lot of children that were saying this, and how they're toxic, awful people, and if they did that in real life, no one would be friends with them. But again, they're children, Gabbie, children. They don't really understand a lot of things. Should we be okay with their actions? No. But as adults, I feel like we should look at their actions and be like,
they are kids. I'm going to handle this like an adult.
But how Gabbie handles criticism or really messed up things sent from children is not handling it like an adult. And it shows throughout Gabbie's series and in other content she's published. She has a hard time separating children from adults. A better way of telling kids they did something wrong instead of saying they're awful and don't deserve friends would be to be constructive or insightful so then they could hopefully learn and grow. Not saying it will happen, but they are children. We should treat them like children. We should act like the adults we are, and that's not to excuse their actions. It's more an interaction thing. Gabbie then goes off to finish this episode with how she doesn't like drama. She barely responds to drama. You just don't see how often she doesn't respond to drama. And it's well, yeah, I actually do agree she doesn't often respond to drama, but when she responds, she doesn't go about it in a good, healthy way. She goes about it in a really awful way, bringing more and more people into it, causing more and more drama. So when she says she doesn't cause drama, I don't even know what to say. Yeah, you do. First, by doing problematic things. Second, by bringing everyone and their brother in on anything you're going through at any given moment. She uses one time she felt hurt to bring up every other time she's felt hurt. Therefore, she's addressing most of the drama she didn't respond to all at once. In that case, you are responding to every single drama. Just because it takes you time in between every single drama-geddon you have does not mean you don't pull in every single time you felt revengeful. The thing is she does this thing, which in my opinion is less healthy. I remember I used to do this and still sometimes fall back into the pattern of doing this with people I'm extremely close to, because I feel wrong calling out when I find something they did was wrong. But what my therapist has said about it is it's like cooking. If we add all the ingredients at once to a pot, the pot is more likely to boil over. But if we add them one at a time and let them cook down, the chances of a boil over is less. And in this, hello, I'm the pot that boiled over. Far too often. But now I'm somewhere in the middle. Sometimes I put too much in my pot all at once, and it boils over. Hence my last video. Thank you for your support on that. I have read all the comments. I'm going to take a little time to reply to all of them though. It's tough on my mental health. I want to make it clear at the end of this, I do believe Gabbie Hanna could get help and become a better person. But it's up to her and her alone to want to get that help. There's a lot that she will have to realize in doing that, and I just don't know if she's ready for that.